from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Friday night edition of the program. This week flew by, and I'm hoping to speak with you guys tonight. For those of you that aren't out to dinner and you're home and you're listening, you're in your car, wherever you are, welcome to the program. Stick around. We're here for 3 hours. I'm with you till 1 a.m. Eastern time, midnight time, obviously if you're in the Central Time Zone. And so on and so forth. Anyway, the phone number 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And let's see, what are we getting into tonight? We're going to talk a little bit about Social Security reform. Will Social Security be around? Will it survive? We're going to get into that in a little bit. We're also going to get into the film industry. Will sequels be able to save Hollywood? Hollywood took a hit, obviously, during COVID, and then again after that with the writer's strike. It's starting to bounce back, but will it really make a comeback the way it was? I don't know. I'm going to presume yes, just because I'm an eternal optimist, and I think, sure, why not? I'm not one of those people that's like, I can't stand these Hollywood lefties. They're such hypocrites. I'm never going to the movies again. I love the movies. Are you kidding me? I'm going to go to a Robert De Niro movie. I'm watching all the movies. I don't care who people are voting for. I also don't care what race people are. I enjoy what I enjoy, and that's how that goes. I mean, if I were to discriminate against people because of their political leanings, I would have like 4 different people I could listen to. And we know that, we want to have options, right? We're conservatives. It's all about choice. It's all about freedom. It's all about liberty. Anyway, just wanted to throw that out there to anger a few people. And what else are we talking about tonight? Oh, my gosh. No, I don't want to say illegal aliens, but quite frankly, that could be the case. But we got non-citizens that might be voting. And the cost of doing business of our country, right, the federal fiscal burden, it eats up 93% of America's wealth. We're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. But I want to start with this speculation that we have over who is going to be the vice presidential running mate to Que Mala Eres. And looks like it's going to be this governor from Pennsylvania, Shapiro, and that makes strategic sense to me. But again, it's anybody's guess, right? Anybody's guess. I think it makes sense for him because he strikes me as someone that has presidential aspirations. These other people like J.B. Pritzker, right, from Illinois, and who's the other one? Walz. These guys may have presidential aspirations, but they don't look camera ready enough for me. And I'm not trying to insult them. I myself have a face for radio and the head of hair to match. But what I mean is that they don't seem like they're it, right? Like they can really compete at that level. I could be totally wrong. I never thought we'd see a guy with a beard running for vice president other than Abe Lincoln. And here we have J.D. Vance, right, with the beard and everything. So, and again, these are insignificant things that just, you start to form an opinion, right? It's like Lincoln, Ulysses Grant. All right, that's it. Right? I never imagined in the modern day and age that we would break the mold from the navy blue suit and the flag on the lapel, a hair combed to the side look. I just didn't think so. I'm glad we did. I mean, I think Trump did it. He's got a tan and he's got, blondish hair, and that's somewhat of a departure. But Vance is taking it a little further. Que Mala Eres takes it even further. So if any of those cosmetic things matter to anybody, they don't really matter to me. Just makes you wonder. It's a head scratcher. Things that make you go, kind of. Anyway, will it be Josh Shapiro? Will it not be? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I'd love to know the answer to it, though, because it would be interesting to see. He was the governor during COVID, and he was horrible during COVID. He was also the governor during the 2020 election, and he was horrible there too. So I think those are things that likely won't help them for for the America First base. Again, it's not the America First base that they're really fighting for on Election Day. They're fighting for the middle. They're fighting for the people that have the opinion of, I don't really care. I don't really get involved in politics. They say things like that. They say things like, you know what? I never vote. It doesn't matter. My vote doesn't count. It's either crook A or crook B. One's a crook for the red team. One's a crook for the blue team. None of these people care about me. None of these people do anything for me. I think there's a lot of disaffected people that just don't care. They feel disenfranchised. They don't give a darn. But I think in this election there's going to be a little bit of a difference. Why? Because they've likely felt like that as independents, as apathetic voters for a while. But they didn't feel the crunch that they have on their pocket like they are now. And that is the difference. The fact that you have all these women, these young people that didn't care about these things. Stuff didn't matter to them. But now all of a sudden it does. And that's why the issues are so important in this election. Now, we have strayed from the issues for the last 3 weeks because the media is fixated on que mala eres, and then I don't know why. And again, I mean, I could posit that the reason Trump decided to make this comment about, I don't know, now she's black. She used to be Indian. Well, it was funny. And it's still dominating headlines for, now, I guess, the 48th hour. And maybe that was the plan. Or maybe the idea was throw something out there and make them react to it, put them on defense. Have her surrogates go out there and have to prove that she's black. But instead, they're not doing that. What they're doing is they're going out there going, just like we told you, El Trumpito's a racist. He can't go three sentences without making a racist trope. And I don't think that's a racist trope. But my point is, if you could avoid that by, attaching her to inflation, attaching her to the border, attaching her to any policy issue that really matters to people, right? Inflation was the chart-topping issue for months, and then it was replaced by the border. This is something Trump is an expert at. He got elected on this. They're sending us, they're rapists, they're murderers, right? Remember that? That got him elected. Now, again, that was another thing they beat him up over. So this could be the foresight that he has, right? It could be his prescient way of thinking, of saying, no, it's important that we paint Kamala Harris as someone that is a fake, phony fraud, that she's politically expedient, that she's Indian when she needs to be, she's black when she needs to be. But the reality is, I certainly don't care what she is or what she identifies as, right? I mean, I'll give you a little story. My dad was born in Caguas, Puerto Rico. His parents, both born in Puerto Rico. My mom was born in Santurce, Puerto Rico, right? Her dad was born in Puerto Rico. My mom's mom, my grandma, was born in Panama, right? So it makes me some percentage Panamanian. And one of my grandfather's parents was born in Colombia, right? So there's an eighth of the bloodline that is Colombian. Maybe that's why I like the bandeja paisa and all that Colombian stuff I eat. But my point is, largely Puerto Rican, my background. I bring all of that up to say, let us just say I decided to identify with what this eighth or this quarter of my background that is either Colombian or Panamanian. Is it now what we should be discussing if I'm running for president? How Panamanian I am, or how Colombian I am, or what dominant percentage of Puerto Rican heritage I have? I mean, really. When there's inflation, when there's a border, when there's this and when there's that. So again, not trying to throw rocks here. Just really curious more than anything. I feel like this is not helping. And you got polls coming out where people are, if she is perceived as a victim to a bully Trump, she's going to win, right? Or she's at least going to get some sympathy votes. She can't be perceived as weak and him be perceived as a bully. She can be perceived as weak and him perceived as strong, as a leader, as someone who can solve the problem. I don't know that, saying that she's now, while it's funny, has a lot of comedic value. And again, this could be me. I might be here a year from now, or even in November when Trump wins, saying, yeah, you know what? Made all the sense in the world now. People were questioning everything from her ethnicity to this, to that, to the other. I don't know if I'll do that. I think right now I'm still scratching my head as to why we're still having this conversation. Why, when I open my Instagram, one of my favorite rappers from the 90s, Luke Skywalker, Real Uncle Luke on Instagram, we don't share anything in the world of politics. But when I see his first video of the day, he's saying, so now they're trying to strip Sister Kamala of her blackness. It's an affront. It's an offense. And this was a population that Trump was making significant gains in. So why rock the boat, right? So anyway, I don't know. Those are my questions with respect to the latest messaging coming from each of the campaigns. Let's focus on these policies because Trump's going to win every single day, hands down, on policy. On blackness, I don't know. She's definitely not a diplomat. We could take it there. I mean, there's so many areas where she's just so not good at anything. So I think there's so many areas we could keep the focus. Anyway, let us continue with our discussion on America's wealth consumption, how much of that goes to the federal fiscal burden. And first, there's a study out that shows that there's a significant percentage of non-citizens that are illegally registered to vote. I want to get the facts on that from Jim Agresti, president of Just Facts. When we come back, don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And this morning, I flip open social media. I check out Truth Social. I check out Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I like Instagram because it has pictures, and, I'm a little simple that way sometimes, and videos. And one of the videos I saw on Instagram this morning, I'll work on getting you who sent it to me momentarily, but it was a video of like undercover journalism, right? Somebody's recording stuff. It's in Spanish, and they're asking people, are you registered to vote? And they're like, oh, yeah, we're registered. And they're like, okay, are you citizens? And they're like, no, we're not citizens. And they're like, how'd you get registered to vote? And then they kind of like stop talking. And it really is an eye-opening thing. And I saw another video where people are lined up outside the DMV because apparently they were told to go there. And these look like people that had just arrived brand new in the country and were told, go here and you'll get a driver's license. And last I checked, you don't even need one of those to vote. But if you need anything at all, it's a driver's license because most state DMVs are the ones that determine your registration, right? They automatically register you. And when you're getting your license, they verify your birth certificate and all those, different documents that you need in order to get the license. That's why they do that. But if you're in a state that's going to, let's say, streamline, quote unquote, air quotes there, the process and make it easier for somebody to get a driver's license or say, oh, no, we're giving driving permits to people that are non-citizens, but we won't allow them to vote or to register. All you need to do is have a little glitch, have somebody make a mistake, and voila, there you go. They're registered to vote. They're not citizens, and they can just go and vote because they're registered to vote. So it's a huge problem that exists, but I want you to listen to this little clip of audio we've got.
We come from a company that is dedicated to registering Hispanic people so they can vote in upcoming elections. Are you already registered? We already voted. You already voted? Yes. Are you a citizen or?
No.
Have you already been registered or?
Yeah.
Are you a citizen or?
No.
Have you already been registered at work? Yes, we have. You've already been registered? Are you a citizen or not a citizen?
No es.
The apartment complex Elliott Norcross in Norcross, Georgia, is occupied primarily by non-citizens. We visited the complex to ask residents two questions. Are you a citizen and are you registered to vote? Shockingly, 14% of respondents admitted to being non-citizens registered to vote.
Buenas, disculpe por molestar. Venimos con una organización que se dedica a registrar a la gente hispana para poder votar en las elecciones. ¿Ya la registraron a usted o...?
Ya.
¿Ya? ¿Y fue en el trabajo o vino alguien a tocar? Ah, ok. Muchas gracias. Y oiga, ¿y usted es ciudadana o...? No. ¿Ya la registraron en el trabajo o en un lado?
Bueno, sí, nos dijeron, pero
¿Ya se registró?
yo creo que sí.
¿En el trabajo?
Ajá, sí.
All right, so there you have the audio on the video there, and again, a little bit of translation at the end. He's like, "Oh, how did you get registered to vote? Are you a citizen?" She's like, "No." She giggles, and he's like, "How'd you get registered to vote?" She's like, "Oh, at work." And he kind of leads it. He's like, "Was it at work?" And she's like, "Yeah, it was at work." And the video ends there, and that's why the audio stopped there. And again, that is from Citizen Free Press on Truth Social. Saw that this morning. If you want to go check it out, hat tip to them. But I want to understand this a little better because there's a study out right now showing that there's a significant percentage of non-citizens that are illegally registered to vote. And Jim Agresti, who is president and co-founder of JustFacts.com, has all the facts. Jim Agresti, welcome back.
Richie V, always great to be on. An honor and a pleasure.
Thank you, brother. And we don't have a ton of time in this segment, but I did want to make sure I brought you in and let the audience know you were with us. When you hear the music, we're going to take a quick pause and we're going to come back and finish this. But tell us the gist of what this study is all about.
So the study is a very comprehensive, transparent, and rigorous study on the matter of non-citizen voter registration, which is illegal in all 50 states. However, like a lot of laws, it's not enforced. When we looked at the best data we can find, we found that 10% to 27% of all non-citizens in the United States are, in fact, registered to vote. That comes to roughly 2 to 5 million people who could vote in the upcoming election.
That we know
illegally. That we know about. And not only that, you know, you hear the left talking about voter suppression, that ID laws suppress votes because certain people don't have IDs, which is ridiculous. But the point is, every one of these non-citizens who votes illegally cancels the vote of a citizen. That is the biggest voter suppression going on in this nation right now.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is the idea of using an ID is really to suppress a fraudulent vote. And so, yes, it does suppress a vote, and it should suppress a fraudulent vote, right? I think for everything else in the world, we use ID. It doesn't matter if you're poor, black, Hispanic, any race. I think everybody uses ID to do certain legal things. You know, if you go to the bank, unless you've been banking there forever, they're asking you for ID. Wherever you go, they're asking you for ID. So it makes a lot of sense to me. Now, Jim Agresti, this I think is a significant issue. And like you mentioned, illegal in all 50 states. Is this, from what you understand of the study, something that's happening because it was accidental or something that's happening because of malfeasance?
Well, it's tough to really judge people's motives in these cases, but I can tell you this, the laws are very weak. The enforcement is incredibly weak. When we get back, we'll talk about New Jersey, what goes on there.
Perfect. Folks, we're coming right back with Jim Agresti. James Agresti is president and co-founder of JustFacts.com. Check out the website, JustFacts.com, JustFacts.com. Don't go anywhere, folks. Rich Valdez coming right back with Jim Agresti.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation on this study that shows that 10% to 27% of non-citizens are illegally registered to vote. Jim Agresti, president of JustFacts.com, is with us breaking it down. That's JustFacts, FACTS.com. Jim Agresti, this is a big deal. And when we left off, you said you were going to give us an example from New Jersey. I hail from New Jersey, and I'd love to know what's going on.
Yeah, and so do I. As you know, we both grew up in the same town in North Bergen.
There you go.
Yeah. So anyway, the law in New Jersey explicitly states you can register to vote. I'm going to use quotes here with a, quote, store membership ID, unquote, quote, student ID, quote, rent receipt, quote, government check. None of these things prove you are a citizen. So when the left says it's already illegal to register to vote if you're a non-citizen, that's fine. It's also illegal under federal law to smoke marijuana. Yet we know from scientific surveys that a significant percentage of the population does so. And it's the same thing with non-citizens voting. When you conduct a scientific survey and do some database checks versus election databases, what you find is that figure you said, 10% to 27% of them are illegally registered to vote. And what we know from studies is that about half of them will actually turn out to vote who are registered in a presidential election year. Well, that's 1 million to 2.5 million votes. That can overturn congressional elections, Senate elections, and yes, even the presidency.
And you know, Jim Agresti, this is something that I had a tough time wrapping my head around when somebody told me about this a few years ago, and I thought, nah, I'm not going to have it. It's just too far and too far and too few in between for that to make that type of impact. But that was also before we had this ungodly number of people from other countries that have snuck into our country, right? That was when, they were saying maybe there's about 1 million new people. And here we are, fast forward, they're saying there's 8 million new people, 10 million new people. Others estimate close to 20 that because of the gotaways that we don't know. So with a number that's between 10 or nearly double at 20 million people, it's just conservatively speaking, again, that's 10 times the amount that you just said that could swing an election, right? That's 10 million people. And to me, this is a huge problem.
Yeah, you have to realize that not all of them are registered. So the numbers I'm giving you are for people who are actually registered to vote and could swing that election. So this is an enormous problem, and very few people are willing to face it. Even the Republican bill, I'm forgetting the name of it, the SAVE Act maybe, that's going to ask for ID, does not solve the problem, and I'll tell you why. The vast bulk of illegal immigrants in this nation have false ID. The Government Accountability Office has found that. The New York Times has found that. In 2017, the leader of the California State Senate, Kevin DeLeon, said on the floor of the California Senate, if you have family, as I do, who are undocumented, you know that almost all of them have secured fake ID, driver's license, Social Security cards, green cards. This is an epidemic problem in our country. And by the way, to use those fake IDs to register for government services or vote, that's a crime punishable by up to 5 years in prison. Yet it's rarely enforced. So when you hear Democrats say when Trump was convicted, no one's above the law, you have to see that the Democrats have made millions of people above the law in this country, above immigration law, above voter fraud laws, above fake ID laws. It's rampant.
Yeah, well, it's a huge deal. And it's something that, again, we can't just write off. I'd say it was probably, around the last election, maybe before the last election. And I thought, it can't be. It's just not enough people. They're not that interested. Now it looks like we've imported, so many people. We've already have this number that you're talking about that's registered with this potential for more to be registered. And again, either way, right? It doesn't matter which way they vote. It's not like if it's okay if they're voting for Trump and it's bad if they're voting for Harris. It's the integrity of our system that I think is the real issue here. I want to switch gears to this other crazy number. 93% of America's wealth goes to the federal fiscal burden. This is crazy. Tell us more.
So we recently passed a milestone of a $35 trillion national debt in this nation. Now, put that figure in context. That's about $100,000 for every person living in our country and $250,000 for every household in our country. However, that's only a fraction of the true burden because the national debt is based on a cash accounting system, which I'm not going to get wonky on you here, Rich, but let me just say this.
Yeah.
If you and I were a corporate CEO of a Wall Street company and we used that accounting system, we'd be in jail. You cannot account for your debts, liabilities, and obligations in that way. So every year, the U.S. Treasury puts out a report that's widely ignored that uses what's called accrual accounting, which is what the government mandates of major corporations. And when you tally up all the debts, liabilities, and unfunded obligations that appear in that 250-page report, what you find is we have about $142 trillion in federal red ink. Now, to put that in context, that's more than $1 million per household, and it equals 93% of all of the wealth Americans have accumulated in the history of our nation.
Wow. Now, what I find interesting that I've never seen before, and obviously exacerbates this number, or contributes to it, I should say, is the fact that the debt service, we're borrowing. I think in the last budget they were borrowing $2 trillion to pay interest. Isn't that obscene?
Yeah, I think it's more closer to $1 trillion. But what's happening is for years we've had very low interest rates. And because of all the spending, the Fed had to jack up interest rates. And now as that debt matures and people have to start, trading in that debt, our debt payments and the interest on the debt is going through the roof. And it shows no signs of slowing down because even if interest rates come down a little, a lot of this debt was brought on when interest rates were 1%. It's not going that low. So as the debt matures, the interest goes higher and higher and higher. And pretty soon, we're in a death spiral here.
How do we fix it? Or I better said, can we? Is it a real thing that we can fix it?
So part of fixing any problem is understanding the root causes of it. And the root cause of this problem is social programs. All the way across the board from food stamps and welfare, and yes, also including Social Security and Medicare, which neither party right now is willing to touch because it's a highly volatile issue. But a lot of those unfunded obligations are in those two programs. What people don't realize, they think those programs are saving your money and giving it to you when you retire. That's not how they work. The way they work is the taxes you pay now go to current recipients. And what's happened is every generation has had to pay a bigger share of their income to those programs. So effectively, it's a legal Ponzi scheme where it requires more and more people to come in to keep it afloat. And with birth rates being so low, the system is starting to crumble under its own weight.
Wow. Absolutely insane. Jim Agresti, stick with me. I want to ask you one more question on that front. Because a lot of conversations I get into, and I'd like your take on it. Folks, are coming right back with Jim Agresti, president of JustFacts.com.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
You have experience and skills in interviewing, or you wouldn't be on your program.
America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And getting to your calls momentarily. Stick with us, 833-4-VALDEZ. Jim Agresti, we're talking about the horrible fiscal management of our nation. And I oftentimes find myself getting into conversations about this, wherever I go. It's, hey, how are you? How you doing? What do you think of the currency? The economy's going to fall out. Let's go back to the gold standard, right? That's kind of how it goes usually. And I'm wondering which camp you're in and your thoughts on that. Do you think that the dollar will ultimately become useless? And when I say ultimately, I mean in the next year or two, or will we have our lunch eaten by the folks in the BRICS consortium? Or do you think we go back to the gold standard or some combination thereof?
So I don't think we're going to have this catastrophic collapse brought on by federal fiscal policy alone. Other things could cause that to happen. There's a lot of, once one domino starts falling, the others can as well. But you have to realize, because we can print our own money, we have a lot of flexibility in this nation. And because the dollar is still the world's reserve currency, so what ends up happening is it doesn't often fall out quickly. What happens is you end up with decades of low wage growth, low standard of living growth, because they can pull a lot of different levers to stop this catastrophic collapse, and they have. They did it during the Great Recession. They did it during COVID. But ends up happening is it can come out of your hide slowly, and that's really dangerous, and I'll tell you why. Because when you haven't had a raise in 3 years or your grocery prices are going up, who's the first person you blame? Well, you blame your boss, and you blame that evil grocery store who keeps charging you more, when really the problem is often in Washington. But these problems circulate through the economy in ways that aren't obvious to the average person.
Right. Yeah, well, and I agree with that. And I think that makes sense. That's a measured approach. And it's a lot better than, oh, my gosh, we're going to go into hyperinflation, we're going to die, and we're going to have to eat dogs. I'm glad that's not your take on it, because it's definitely not mine. But it is. I know a lot of people out there who just love the doomsday scenarios. And, I don't discount them totally. But my hope is that we'll be able to rebound. Otherwise, why would anybody even try, right? You wouldn't see people like Trump even running for office if it was a guarantee that we were going to bring our whole monetary system down. Anyway, Jim Agresti, I want to thank you, sir, for being with us. You're a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. Folks, check him out at justfacts.com, JUSTFACTS.com. Jim Agresti, thank you, sir.
Richie V, thank you.
You bet. God bless. All right, folks, to your calls we go. Let us go to... Let's go to Chris calling us from Lewis, Delaware, WDEL. Go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. How you doing?
Wonderful, thank you.
You started the segment tonight with the undercover videos of the Hispanic people that have just gotten here.
Mm-hmm.
We need to, that's great that they're doing all that, but we don't need that right now. We know they're going to vote. We know lots of them are going to vote. So give into that right now. We can fix that later if we get into office and fix the laws. But right now, court the Hispanic vote. Talk to people. Go out and reach out to Hispanics and say, this is why you need to vote Republican. Your values line up with our values. We're conservative. You need to stop. Don't follow the Democrats just because they tell you to. Explain to them and go out and court the vote. I don't hear anybody around here doing that. There's a huge Hispanic population here in Georgetown, Delaware, and I don't hear anybody going after it. I just hear them complaining that they're going to vote illegally. We need to go after their vote.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Chris. I'm not sure that anybody's really ever going to go after any vote, irrespective of their ethnicity, if it's an illegal vote. If you're talking about Hispanics, Americans that are able to vote, I think Trump's done a really good job at that. He's honestly, I think, had some of the best growth of the Hispanic vote than any Republican that's run for president since George W. Bush, who I think got 41% of the Hispanic vote in 2004. So in the last 20 years, at least, Trump is definitely dominating there. With respect to going after illegal aliens to vote, that I think is a natural thing. I think there's a lot of people that are coming to this country for a better way, right, to live better, for a better opportunity. And most people who do that, they're going to vote their values. They're going to vote for what is right. By and large, I don't think Hispanics are monolithic in any way. And something else I don't think they are is oblivious or they don't lack understanding on a lot of issues. These are people that are escaping exactly what they don't like in their home countries where they're leaving their families behind to come to pursue the American dream in most cases. So I think outside of the narco trafficker, the human trafficker, all these people that are part of this cartel scheme to bring people in, bring drugs in, et cetera, outside of that, I think there's a large number of people that are coming here for a better way. And ultimately, I think they do make the right decision. And I only know that because I speak to people. And when I speak to people, the people I know, and I happen to be Hispanic, so I speak to a lot of Hispanics, and most of my family is Hispanic. When I speak to people, they're on board. And these are not people that, these are people that voted for Obama twice. And they're saying, I'm going with Trump this time because he's the right way to go. Things did not work well with Biden. So I think that those things happen organically, which is why I made the comments I made earlier about who cares if Kamala Harris is Jamaican or Indian or anything else. We need to keep it on immigration. We need to keep it on inflation. We need to keep it on the issues because it's those issues that are motivating people who don't even care about politics, people who don't listen to talk radio, people who don't care about watching Fox News or Newsmax after dinner, people who, they're just living their lives. And there's so many of them. I was divorced when I was in my 30s. I'm in my 40s now. So I've spent the last dozen or so years on the dating scene. And I can tell you, I've dated lots of different women. And most of them could care less about politics. Most of them. A handful of them will be like, oh, my gosh, you're one of those crazy conservatives. A handful. But for the most part, they just don't care. They don't care because they're busy with their children, if they have children, with their career, with what they want to do, going to the gym, you name it. Just, they're buying the latest Beyonce tickets, whatever it is that they occupy themselves with. And that's the majority of people. People don't live for politics like I do, and maybe like some of our listeners do. And ultimately, I think those are the people that we have to make the case for. Those are the people that are like, yeah, I'm going to vote. I just don't know who. And they're kind of dragging their feet. Those people, clear as day, they're the ones that are going to decide the election, the independents. So thank you for your thoughts, Chris. I appreciate it. Big shout out to everybody listening in Delaware, WDEL in the building. And folks, we're coming right back with the rest of your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, we need to keep it very brief and very quick. Let's go to Rose, Morehead City, North Carolina, WTKF.
Hi, Rich.
All right. Hi.
I'm to 30 seconds and counting, so I'm going to get to the point. I said when I was listening to the ambush, basically, that was put upon President Trump after the July 13th assassination attempt, I thought, look at it from a woman's point of view. I said about Kamala Harris, when she changes her mannerisms to fit the images of who she's pandering to, she wants something from that group. She had several speaking engagements that basically mock the people she says she represents. The people are now able to see how her policy VIP record. She stated that she was last in the room with POTUS, and she's done 15 reversals of policies, erased failures to finish anything or even start.
So, Rose, I just want to get to the bottom line here. What's the bottom line of what you're saying, that she's a fraud?
She's a fraud.
Yeah.
And she's,
all right. Well, I think American people know that, and I think they think that of most politicians. So that's not going to be enough to sink her. She's got to be a fraud that's going to take money out of your pocket and hurt your children, right, with inflation. I think that's the ticket. Rose, thanks for your call. Mark in Pittsburgh, if you can hang on, please do. I'm going to get to you in a little bit. Don't go anywhere, folks. Rich Valdez coming right back.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo, happy to be here with you this Friday night. We're live, we're national, and taking your calls this hour and all through the next hour for Open Phone America. So here's the number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. A couple of headlines. Kamala Harris is in the news. And, of course, she seems to be going up in the different polls. The Trump campaign is saying that this is the honeymoon period, and I think it is. I think a lot of people are very excited that she's not Joe Biden and that, wow, they feel enthused, right? Just imagine if you had a candidate that was so lackluster like Joe Biden, that didn't know where he was going, that was pooping his pants when he's visiting the Pope, that's shaking hands with the Easter Bunny, falling up the stairs, and yada, yada, yada. You know the rest. I got hairy legs. You ain't black, right? So if that's your candidate and you're just becoming totally apathetic, and then the major donors start to say, you know what, we're not doing it. We're holding up $90 million in donations. All of a sudden, the party has to make a move. Okay, so they make their move. And now they bring in, que mala eres. But the reality is she's earned that name. How bad she is. She really is that bad. So she seems to be okay right now for the Democrat voter that's like, all right, now we're back in the game. This woman can do it. She's a prosecutor. He's a criminal. We got this. That's not going to last. It's literally August. And there's a little bit of a lull. So I agree. It is part of the honeymoon, the bounce back that comes from, having a candidate that, can produce a word salad sentence from the candidate who can't produce a sentence. Okay, got it. But that runs out when you go back to the issues. It's not like in September and in October and in the first week of November, we're going to have inflation that is back at 1.25% or 1.4%. That's not going to happen. It's not like we're going to have gasoline prices that are going to be that low, like $1.97. I think that was what it was the last day Trump was in office. And if it were, it's got to be a scam to get there, right? You've got to release, 20, 30, 40 million barrels of oil to bring it down for a sustained amount of time, which is a bad move for the national security of our country to deplete our own strategic petroleum reserve. So it's not like those things are going to happen. It's not like she's going to single-handedly end the war in Ukraine, although she probably could, right? She could probably say, look, I'll keep the money coming. This thing's over. Putin and you, and let's sit down. But I don't think that they care. They like to have the war machine going, right? They do. So ultimately, what changes between now and the next 3 months? Not a whole lot. And you would need all of it to change so that she could take the victory lap and say, look, I've been here for 3 months, and in the last 90 days, man, I've been putting in that work. And just like anybody else who starts a new job, you get that 90-day performance review, and you go there and you go, you know what, I'd like a raise. Right? That's what she's in effect doing. She's like, I'd like a raise, I'd like a promotion. And she'd earn it if she could really produce that, if she could produce a higher median household income and people were just automatically feeling better about things. So the only alternative to that is she's running against a candidate who has a record like that, who's proven that he can do those things. And if you had to choose between these two people, you would think, okay, well, one of them has done it and the other one isn't even saying that she can do it. So we already know what she's going to do. The Green New Deal, we already know what she's going to do when it comes to Build Back Better, when it comes to the border, when it comes to every one of Biden's policies. She's the Harris from Biden-Harris. Clear as day. So I don't know that this thing lasts forever. I do know the longer she's able to talk about Trump being a threat to democracy, her being a prosecutor, him being a criminal, her framing this as something other than a referendum on Biden, and she is Biden, right? She's the Harris and Harris-Biden, or Biden-Harris. then the longer she enjoys this little temporary bump in the polls. But outside of that, nada. Now, we need to look at the big issues in life, because you've got senior citizens that are very receptive to what Trump was saying at his rally just a few days ago. Listen to this.
Remember this, I will cut all of the bad talk about Social Security. They're going to destroy your Social Security, but I will not cut 1 cent from Social Security or Medicare. And I kept my promise for 4 years, and I will keep it again. And seniors should not pay taxes on Social Security. And they won't. They won't.
So that's Trump. Now, listen, he said that, and that took some of the media by storm. He ended up on Fox Business this morning with Maria Bartiromo in a quick exchange. Listen to this.
I want to talk to you about tax policy. I know you want to extend the tax cuts, the tax and jobs law that you signed. In a post on Truth Social, you said that seniors should not pay tax on Social Security. And of course, this made big news, but the Committee for a Responsible Budget says that will mean increasing deficits by $1.6 to $1.8 trillion.
Because we can cut other costs. There's so much waste in our government.
So that's what I want to ask. Where do you get the revenue to offset that? Because it's also apparently going to advance the insolvency date of Social Security's retirement trust fund by over a year.
Well, you know, one of the things good about that is that's when people will make a deal. You know that. But we're going to take care of Social Security. We're not going to do anything to hurt our seniors. There is so much cutting. There is so much waste in this government. There's so much fat in this government. I also have no tax on tips. That's a big deal.
Are you going to make that an official line item in your economic plans?
Yes.
No tax on tips?
No tax on tips. Very simple.
So there you have Trump doubling down, staying focused on policy, which is what I love to hear, because that is how you win the race. These things matter to people. Social Security matters to people. And that's why I want to get some reaction to that and to the rest of what's going on whether we'll even have Social Security for guys like me that are in our 40s. I want to speak with Jim Allsup. He's the founder, CEO of Allsup Disability Representation. And he's been doing this stuff with Social Security benefits and all that for 40 years. And I want to welcome him to the program. Jim, welcome.
Yes, thank you. I'm here.
Wonderful. So what is your reaction to everything you just heard?
Well, Social Security benefits need to be protected, of course. And the issue is how do you go about doing that? And what I'm involved with my whole life is actually the Social Security Disability Program, which is very complex and very difficult for people to navigate, whether they try to qualify for benefits or try to go back to work. So it's very complex and people don't understand it. And what I've been doing my whole life is helping people both qualify for benefits, but also helping them go back to work if and when they recover from a disability. So we do both.
So people that are trying to receive disability benefits and utilize these benefits are taxed on these. Is that right?
Yes.
So a proposal like the one that we just heard would obviously make a pretty big impact on someone that's getting, anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500 or whatever that range would be. Does that seem like it would be something of benefit?
Well, anything would be a benefit, quite frankly, because the average disability benefit is so small. Any help these people can get is going to be beneficial to them, which is why a lot of the people that we deal with want to go back to work, and they're afraid to go back to work because they're afraid they're going to lose their benefits when they go back to work. And the issue is the typical disability benefit is not enough money, and many people simply have to go back to work to try to survive.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Now, if any of our listeners are curious about, a disability claim and utilizing your service for that claim, how do they contact you? How do they get in touch with you? And how do they make that connection?
Well, my company, Allsup, Allsup.com, they can contact us at Allsup.com, ALLSUP.com, and they can contact us for information as far as qualifying for Social Security disability benefits. And my other company is Allsup Employment Services for people who already receive disability benefits and who want assistance or are interested in going back to work, even though they're receiving benefits. So you got two companies. You got Allsup.com, which helps people qualify for benefits. Also, Employment Services, we help people that already receive benefits go back to work.
Outstanding. Well, thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. Folks, if you want to learn more about it, go to Allsup.com. Allsup.com, ALLSUP is the website.com. And we're coming right back. Your calls and more. Don't move a muscle.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Across America to the liberty-loving Latino, Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back, America. Our phone number, 833-4-VALDEZ, 833-482-5337. El Trompito Donaldus Magnus says, no more tax on tips, no more tax on Social Security. And I think those are the types of policy discussions that Americans need to hear, and that's what people are going to vote for. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Mark, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on KDKA. Go right ahead.
Yes. Hi, I wanted to call and tell you that all this inflation and money that the Democrat Party's taken from you wasn't by accident. Let's look at this. At one time, they were saying it was $840 a month more or $740, all these numbers. Basically, it's about $10,000 a year we're losing. So that's $40,000. Now, the way to get that back quickly is using inflation. When I was at work and we based our raises and stuff, the average economy was running at 3.25% per year. Funny how if you take 3.25% times the 4 years Trump was there and the 4 years that Biden was there, it comes out to 26%. Isn't that amazing? They just couldn't stand losing all that money, so they went right back to the same old stuff. See, Trump put it in our pocket, and they wanted it back. And that's exactly what happened.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Anything you wanted to say about Kamala Harris?
Well, let's put it this way. They're foaming all over her right now, but I'm going to say this. She was a DEI hire. Now, I know that, and the people who would do a little research, because it came right out of Joe Biden's mouth. That's how she became vice president. She might not have said it, but they know it because it came right out of Biden's mouth.
Yeah, you're 100% right, Mark. And I want to thank you for your call on KDKA, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the building. We're going to continue. But before we do, let me see. Do we have this clip available? Control room? Houston? All right. So Biden himself, as our caller just aptly pointed out, did say that he was choosing Kamala Harris because she was black. Listen to this. And we'll try that again later when it works a little better. Anyway, let's continue. Let's go to Frank in Evergreen, Montana. Frank, go right ahead. KOFI.
Hi, Rich.
Hey.
Were you ever aware of a plutonium car by Ford Motors back in the 50s?
No.
It was called the Nutrion, and it looked like the Batmobile, and it was really short. It was about half the size of the Batmobile. and it looked like a little Ford Comet almost, but almost like a Ranchero, but had the fins. And anyway, they said that a car like this could travel around maybe the life of the car, or just nuclear subs can run around with a pound of plutonium for years, along with nuclear subs, even less. And my gosh, this could probably run on a teaspoon. However, my gosh, they could end up with a whole bunch of people who just want to drive around, see how far they go without even stopping for servicing anywhere. And so there'll be little piles of junk alongside the road that end up as nuclear stockpile in a junkyard somewhere. And no, it never would take off. But
do you think the reason it didn't take off was because it was using nuclear power as opposed to gasoline? And during that time, there was, and still, I think, there was such a stronghold by the energy magnates that were in the oil business?
Even that small of a plutonium fuel in your vehicle could fry you and everybody in the car without the proper shielding and containment, and you couldn't have a collision. You wouldn't want to avoid any fender benders. But we have plenty of this to go around over here in Hanford, Washington. There's tunnels and of millions of gallons still being contained. It's still leaking out a little bit, and by they say another 25 years, it's going to corrosively break the locks and go into the Columbia River, and my gosh, and then we'll see more and more of these morbidity rates in births. In that area of Hanford, Washington, there are higher rates of children being born with two separate sex organs. And
oh, wow. Definitely no nuclear-powered cars, if that's the case. That's horrible. I don't mean to laugh. I just find that so crazy to hear. The Ford Nucleon was a bad look, and I get what you're saying, that nuclear power, as much as people want to say it's very clean and this and that, has its drawbacks. And I guess that makes sense. Well, thank you, Frank. I appreciate the history lesson. And I Googled a picture of it, and very cool. It looks like an old version of the Tesla Cybertruck in kind of way. Nice car, If I had a ton of money, I would have so many cool cars. I'd have a Ferrari. I'd have one of these Ford Nucleons just to show it off. Like Seinfeld has that big car collection, and Jay Leno has a big car. I guess I'm going to have to become a comedian. First, I have to get funny. And then once I'm funny, I can become a comedian, and then I can buy all these cars. Because, man, I have such an appetite for cars. I'd need a big garage. All right, folks, we're coming right back. More discussion, more commentary, more of everything. It's Friday night. We're letting our hair down. 833-482-5337. I'm Rich Valdez. I'm here with you till 1 a.m. Make sure you give us a follow on all the social media. If you want to see those pictures of that I was mentioning from my trip to Puerto Rico over the weekend, you can check it out at Instagram. Otherwise, make sure you're following on all the social media at Rich Valdez. Don't go anywhere.
No hair, no care, and live on the air, it's Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, we continue our discussion, and something that I wanted to ask you, the audience, is will Hollywood make their big comeback? Will they build back better, if you will, by way of making sequels? Now, I know there's some really good movies that are coming out, and there was a little bit of a delay for a while, right? You had the writer's strike that slowed down Hollywood. You had COVID that slowed down Hollywood. So it's been a rough few years. But some good movies are coming out. I just saw a trailer for a movie called Killing Castro with Al Pacino, and looks terrific. Brad Feinstein's the producer on that, and I'm looking forward to going to a screening of it if I can. But there's a few movies coming out, but not everything is Oppenheimer, not everything is the Barbie movie or whatever. So I want to know, will sequels save Hollywood? I don't know anything about that stuff, but Dr. Andy Draper does. He is one of the hosts on Off the Script Film Review, and he's also a professor at SMU's School of the Arts. Dr. Andy Draper, welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. So let's talk about the state of affairs in Hollywood. I know there's some people that could care less about what Hollywood does, and I haven't been to the movies in quite a while. I mean, I think I went maybe twice this year, and both times it was a kind of funny movie. That's usually my speed, but every now and again, actually, no, I saw the Ghostbusters. It was funny, but it was also action-packed, and it had a lot of throwbacks in it. But everybody has a different speed when it comes to that. And again, the Ghostbusters movie was a sequel. So are sequels the way to Hollywood success?
Well, they're definitely doing a bunch of heavy lifting this summer. We've had huge successes with Inside Out 2, Despicable Me 4, Twisters, A Quiet Place Day 1, and just Deadpool and Wolverine this past weekend. So they're definitely doing really well for the last 2 months. But earlier in the year, April and May were a little thin, and we did have the sequel, kind of prequel film, Mad Max Furiosa, which was kind of a bomb all around. But for the most part, a sequel or a franchise piece is generally safer than an original movie.
Yeah, I guess it would seem that way. And I guess that makes sense. If things are rough, you got to go with what you know. Now, do you think people are going to get adventurous and start putting out some original features again, or is it going to be hedging the bets to play it safe with sequels?
Ideally, you do a little bit of both. You do your safer franchise films, sequels, and things that people know and love that you can kind of count on and put a lot of money into. But all franchises come from an original idea at some point. So you got to take risks at some point. But usually that's done on smaller films. Like we see that a lot in horror movies because horror is made very cheaply, like $5-10 million films, or the mid-budget, the like $30-40 million film. But those are kind of ending up on streaming services more than likely. So a lot of, if you're going to take a bigger risk, you're going to get a lower budget.
Now, what's the I guess the state of affairs with that? Are producers still willing to invest? Are the investors still investing? Is it something that's become a little bit more difficult because of the economy and inflation?
It definitely feels like there's two kinds of movies. There's the $10 million indie film or less, and the $200 million Disney, Marvel, Star Wars kind of film. There's not much in the middle. That's where the real risk is when you do like a $50 or $60 million film. Comedies are surprisingly expensive because you got to pay for the talent more than anything. That's what drives up the cost. And that's usually where people are less likely to want to invest, or to just sell it to a streamer where you're getting paid up front. You don't have to worry about the marketing campaign or how it's going to do at the box office. So the risk is more on the outliers and less in the middle these days.
Yeah, it makes sense. Now, for folks that are enjoying the conversation we're having and want to hear more about your commentary on films, you have a program called Off Script Film Review. Tell us about that.
Right. So that's a podcast I've been doing with my co-host, Zach Lewis, for 7 years now. We just crossed 260 episodes of talking movies. We do film reviews. We talk film news, whatever's happening that week. We usually have another segment talking trailers or what's coming up, or just a general discussion. And we usually do a new film, something that's out in theaters, and then maybe something that's on streaming that maybe came out a few months before or is new on Netflix, that sort of thing. So we kind of get a mix of what we're talking about.
What are some of the titles that are hot right now on streaming?
usually you have to look at what was big a couple of months ago, or even a few weeks ago, depending if things aren't very good. I know the horror movie Maxine just came out on VOD. The Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes movie that came out at the beginning of July, that's out now. So some of those early summer releases we're starting to see now available for streaming. And
I know you mentioned Despicable Me 4, Inside Out 2, which I did see, which actually was really good. And there was another one that you mentioned. It was huge. The Wolverine, Deadpool. And these are all, really big films. But what else is out there that is current?
Well, a little bit of a surprise has been the horror movie Longlegs, which Nicolas Cage is in. This is a small movie that he did for, it was a $10 million movie that also stars Micah Monroe, and it's a very much kind of like a Silence of the Lambs /Seven kind of cop procedural investigating a series of murders, and that movie's done really well. It's made about $60 million so far, the highest grossing movie for Neon, which is the distributor. Previously, their highest grossing movie was Parasite, and that's been really popular. It's a real creepy kind of atmospheric horror movie. Going through house to house, looking for clues, looking for who's behind all these terrible things. And it's been a big success. And that's a good example of a small film that's doing really well.
Now, if people want to check out your show, where do they find it?
We're available on all podcast distributors, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube at filmreview.com. Same thing with that's all our socials, Instagram, Facebook as well. And that's the name of our website. So we're on every channel that we can possibly be.
Perfect. Folks, that's Dr. Andy Draper. He's co-host of the podcast Off Script Film Review. He's also on staff at SMU's School of the Arts. And you can check out the website he just mentioned, offscriptfilmreview.com, and check him out on social as well. Dr. Andy Draper, I appreciate it. Hope to have you back in the future to learn a little bit more about what's going on in the film world.
Thanks for having me on.
You bet. All right, amigos, we continue. If you want to chime in on the movie conversation, happy to hear it. I did see the film that he just mentioned. Which one here? Inside Out 2, which made $1.4 billion globally since it released in June. And I saw it on Father's Day weekend. So it would probably been out just a few days by that time. And maybe the second week, if anything. And it's become the second highest grossing animated film ever. And this is a film about emotions. Right, so each of the characters in the film is an emotion, and the new character that they introduced in this film is anxiety. And I watched this with my, I guess now ex-girlfriend, and her 7-year-old daughter, and it was really moving film, really was very. It held the attention of a 38-year-old woman, a 46-year-old man, and a 7-year-old girl. So I think when you create something like that captures one's attention for that long, it's no wonder to me that this thing made as much money as it did. Anyway, folks, we're coming right back. Your calls and more, 833-482-5337.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
They're trying to erase black history. We're going to write black history because it's American history. It's American history. Together we make history, not erase it. To me, the values of diversity, equality, inclusion are literally, and that's not kidding, the core strengths of America. That's why I'm proud to have the most diverse administration in history. It taps into the full talents of our country and starts at the top with the vice president.
There you have it. The most diverse cabinet starts at the top with the vice president. Who's talking about choosing her because she's a black woman, because she's the most diverse? Joe Biden is. So when somebody says, is Kamala Harris on the ticket because she's black? I didn't say it. Joe Biden said it. And I don't think I'm misconstruing his words at all. He didn't say, I'm picking her because she's a talented attorney. I'm picking her because she's a talented prosecutor. I'm picking her because she's remarkable. No, he said, I'm picking her because she's the most diverse. He said it, not me. Let's go to the phones. 833-4-Valdez. I want to check in with, let's see, we have, hold on, who's on hold the longest? Let's go to, I can't see it. There's too many lines. Franklin, calling from New York. What city are you in, Franklin?
I'm in Barrington, New York.
What station are you listening to? What radio station?
Oh, it's 106 something. They never tell me.
Oh, they never tell you. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
Franklin, what's on your mind? What do you want to say to the American people?
I'm out in the sick, you know.
Go ahead.
A great show, and I agree with you 100%.
Thank you.
It's great to hear Trump when he's sticking to the facts, and you know, it's when he's at his best. But I just want to say, Biden, you know, he said right off the bat, he admitted how when he took over in office, he undid what Trump done here, what Trump undone what Trump done there, and look at where it got us. We went backwards.
Exactly. And I think that is the main thing that nobody should be allowed to forget. And yes, Kamala Harris has a nice lazy summer and the 3 months that are remaining to run this campaign to help us forget everything that Joe Biden did. But the reality is I don't think it can be done. I'm pretty sure that there are people in this country that were saving money to send their kid to the best school that their kid could get into and had to go to a different school, a school that wasn't their parents' choice because they couldn't afford that school anymore because their money wasn't worth as much anymore. I'm pretty sure there are people that wanted to buy their kids something, a car, help them out with the down payment on their home, maybe a wedding. Who knows? There are so many things that people have had to cut corners on because of Joe Biden's economy, because of the choices he made. He might have said that this was because of Trump, because of the COVID virus, because of this, that, and the other. But the reality is all of that's a long time ago, right? People aren't buying it anymore. People who lost their jobs for COVID, most of them, not all, but most of them are back on their feet working again. I know somebody who literally just got hired 2 weeks ago and has been out of work since 2020. So listen, I know that this is happening to people. And that's who you need to remind. You've got to remind people that those are real situations that are really occurring, that the effects of inflation, the effects of an open border, the effects of his reckless foreign policy have deep, deep effects. And Kamala Harris has done nothing but contribute to them and exacerbate them. That's it. So there's nowhere she can run. There's nowhere she can hide to say, well, I disagreed with Joe on this. No, it's Joe. We did it. We did it, Joe. I'm very proud to have served, right? That's what she keeps saying. As long as she keeps saying those things and doesn't distance herself from the Biden-Harris administration, she will be the Biden-Harris administration. And that's it, period, the end. Franklin, thanks for your kind words. I appreciate your call. Thanks for calling in. Big shout out to Franklin in Binghamton, New York, calling us on WDLA, I think is, I'm not sure about that one, but hopefully that's the one. And I appreciate it. Let me see. Where do we go? We do one more, right? And then we go. Let's go to Topeka, Kansas, WMAR. AJ and check in with Dora. Dora, go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. I really
Hey.
enjoy your program. Hi.
Thank you.
And the fellow you had in the beginning of your show, just the facts fellow.
Oh, yes, James Agresti.
Yes, I found him very interesting. And
Very smart guy.
He had been talking about people who are here illegally voting, and I wanted to give you a perspective on that. I'm involved with a program, not at the federal level, but it is federally funded. And because it's federally funded, the feds have made it a mandate that all adults get voter registration forms sent to them, whether they're here legally or not, or citizens or not. And several months ago, we had a meeting, and a coworker said, it's, and I'm paraphrasing what he said, was that, it's confusing for us to send this letter, these forms, voter registration
Right, to people who
forms.
can't use it because they're not citizens.
Right, and that it's also illegal if they complete it, so it's really confusing for them. And people got upset, and the supervisor in that meeting said, that is not for us to decide. The feds tell us to do it, period. So it's
Wow.
like there's no common sense.
Yeah. No, there's common sense. They want it that way. Just like these states that are saying, look, we want to give a driving ability, a permit, a license, a provisional license to folks that are here, because if they're here, they should be able to work. And it has nothing to do with their citizenship. The problem is once you give them that driver's license, they're allowed to get registered to vote. There's going to be a glitch in their system. And just like you, they're engineering a way to get every last person that can be registered to vote, irrespective of their citizenship, which is the number one thing that they have to be in order to vote. Excellent point, Dora. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Dora in Topeka, Kansas, WMAJ. Coming right back. Your calls and more. Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. America, we continue the conversation live and national, 833-4-VALDEZ. Listen, Open Phone America is minutes away. If you want to say something, tell me off, disagree with me, say hello, whatever it is, the number is 833-482-5337. Get your calls in now. Let's go to Dothan, Alabama, WDBT very quickly. Lisa, go right ahead.
Hi,
Lisa,
Rich. How are
hey,
you tonight?
I am wonderful now that I'm talking to you. Go right ahead.
Oh, it made me feel special. You were talking about the whole DEI hire thing with Biden and Kamala, and the only definite way you can say she was a DEI hire is she embarrassed Joe Biden so bad during the Democratic debate when they were both running against each other, and he had no way of responding to her. And then she kept playing up, the little black girl who had to get put on the yellow school bus.
And they went at it, and she let him have it. She sure did. But the reality is, he rubbed it in her face when he said, most diverse cabinet ever, and she's the vice president, Kamala. He might as well have said DEI. Lisa, thanks for the call. Shout out to WDBT in Dothan, Alabama. Paul and David, hang on. We're coming right back. Open Phone America, 833-4-VALDEZ.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to hour number 3 of the program. We're live, we're national, and we're talking with you, all the American people. The phone number, if you want to join us, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And I'm trying to think of where I'm going here. There's a few national days I want to talk about. Of course, I want to remind you, it's Open Phone America. We have a number of people on hold. I'm going to get to you momentarily. We've been talking about the movies. We've been talking about Social Security and Trump's plan to eliminate taxes from it, as well as on tips. We also had some discussion about illegal aliens voting and the cost of what it is costing Americans for us to be in the fiscal situation we're in. Something like 93% of all the money that America steals from us in taxes goes to supporting our money problem, which is crazy, and everything else you guys want to talk about. But the National Day calendar. Every now and again, I look at this thing, and I always find something interesting. Listen to this. There's a National Something Day every day, and some days, multiple National Somethings. So we got National Play Outside Day today, Sandcastle Day, National VFR Day. What is that? This is actually a cool one. Veteran and First Responders Foundation. So the National Veteran First Responders Day is the first Saturday in August. So tomorrow will be National VFR Day. Then you've got National Sunflower Day. I said that to our producer, and his name is Tomas, Count Delacula. And he tells me, oh, that's probably very popular in Kansas. And I felt like a bump on a log. So I from the context of his statement, I think, that means there's probably lots of sunflowers in Kansas. So I go, oh, why are those popular there? And he goes, yeah, state flower, I think. And I said, man, I wish I knew stuff like you knew stuff. I had no idea about that. I've never even been to Kansas. I've visited a number of states, but I've never been to Kansas. So kudos to Count Delacula for knowing stuff, including that. National Hair Gloss Day. Now, National Hair Gloss Day. Did you know that that's a thing? No, you did not. Nobody knew. But did you know that hair is glossy? I didn't know that either. I've heard of lip gloss. Never heard of hair gloss. I went to cosmetology school. I was a barber for a number of years. I'd never heard of hair gloss. I've heard of hair sheen, hair shine. Never heard of hair gloss. Anyway, let's see what else we got. Anyway, that's enough, right? Who wants to hear about another national day? Somehow this all trickles back to like the commie craziness. Anyway, you got the number, 833-4-Valdez. Something else I wanted to bring up, a few things here. There's a couple of politicians that have been out there, been really acting up. What do I mean? The police chief in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Rough part of the world, by the way. Very rough. Let me see if I can pull this up real fast in record time here. Chattanooga. Former Chattanooga. This is Associated Press. Former Chattanooga police chief indicted on illegal voter registration, perjury charges, and is, ousted now, obviously. This is a month ago. The police chief was committing voter fraud. The police chief. That's how bad things are in Chattanooga, right? This is Celeste Murphy. She was charged with 17 counts of, different crimes. She turned herself in last month. She was released on a $19,000 bond. And the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation said in a statement that she's scheduled to appear in court a couple of weeks back. And the charges include one count of illegal voter registration and another count of false entries on official documents, which are filling out the forms, and 3 counts of falsifying government records, 3 counts of forgery, 3 counts of perjury, and 6 counts of official misconduct. Wow. They threw the book at her. Why? Apparently she didn't really live in Tennessee, but was voting in Tennessee, was lying to vote in Tennessee, in Chattanooga, and just an ugly thing. But that's a real thing. Another thing that's a real thing, you've got this councilman in Connecticut gets pulled over. And what does he say to the cop? Yep, you guessed it. Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? Can you believe that? I would never say that in a million years. If somebody recognized me, I'd be like, no, it's not me. I never heard of the guy. Are you Rich Valdez? No, I never heard of the guy. Although, I will tell you a funny story. I went somewhere recently to a government agency to do an errand. I don't want to be too specific because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But I go to this place to get some paperwork done. And you have to check in like a triage. And I check in. And the woman says, your name? Do you have an appointment? I said, yes, I made an appointment online. She says, your name? I give her my name. And she says, oh, you have the same name as the guy from the radio. And I laughed. Because, I was just like, okay, she's heard of me. How cool. and she looks up, and I was like, I laughed, and she looked at me, and she said, oh, my God, are you the guy from the radio? And I didn't know what to say, honestly. I didn't know if I should say yes. Does that come across as pretentious and presumptuous? Like, yeah, that's me. Or I just kind of smiled. And she was like, oh, my gosh, it's you. And it was very weird. Like I talk on the radio for a couple hours each night. I'm not George Clooney, right? But this woman yells. She starts yelling, Santana, Santana. Apparently, Mr. Santana is the armed security that's there. And I'm like, oh, boy, what did I do? What did I say? What did I get myself into? So Santana comes in. He's got like his hand on the pistol grip. And he's like, yeah, what's up? And she's like, Santana, this is Rich Valdez with an S. And he was like, oh, get out. Oh, nice to meet you. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm thinking these people are at work. When do they have time to listen to me? Well, apparently they'd been listening to me or had heard me years ago in New York and remembered me and liked me. And it just really blew me away. I was really taken aback by that. And then they proceeded to help me with what I had to get done in this government agency. And I was in and out of there pretty quickly. And it was relatively painless. And I didn't get any preferential treatment, but I guess I could spill the beans. Right? I was there to help my daughter with her registration on her car. It was a DMV office. And honestly, I was in and out. The process was very seamless. For a trip to a DMV, it went way better than anticipated. So I just wanted to share that. And I wish I had her name to give her a shout out, but I can't. But thank you. Very kind woman who listens to the show and works at the DMV. Now, back to this councilman. And his name is escaping me, but it'll come to me momentarily. Councilman Castillo, who is from Connecticut, who says, do you know who I am? Listen to this.
How you doing, sir? Do you have your license on you?
What are you pulling me over for?
What's that?
What are you pulling me over for?
For traveling 45 miles per hour
into 25 miles.
Okay, I need your license, please.
Coming.
I need your license, please.
What are you pulling me over for?
I just explained to you.
I want to see what you pulled me over.
Okay.
Where's your gun that you said I was
don't
going
need
45?
to show you. So
yes,
if
you do. Yes,
no,
you do.
I don't.
Yes, you do.
Sir.
So you was at the stop sign. I seen you.
Yep.
With the cop.
Yep.
And I was coming down. I slowed down.
Yep.
So I don't know where you say I was going 45 miles per hour.
So the speed laser that we use can see up the hill, and as you took the bend, coming down the hill, you're traveling 45 miles per hour.
What do you mean?
I'm going to need your license.
No, I don't have to give you a license. I want to see why you pulling me over.
Sir.
No, sir, nothing. I got my daughter here.
I understand
okay,
that.
I'm not going. I'm going just like everybody's going.
I'm trying to be respectful here.
Okay.
I would
I want to know what
you
you just came to the stop sign and you just pulled me over.
No. I was sitting at the stop sign. We're working a grant for the state of Connecticut for speed enforcement.
Nobody's speeding. I'm not speeding.
You were speeding.
I wasn't speeding.
I'm going to need your license, sir.
I'm not giving you my license because I wasn't speeding.
You're going to be arrested for interfering, sir.
With my daughter?
I don't want to do that, sir.
Well, I'm not.
I need your license. You need to identify yourself.
No,
I need your license.
I don't need to identify myself. You know who I am? I'm an elected official, and I know my rights.
Okay.
I'm a councilman.
That's fine. That's fine.
But I'm not speeding.
That doesn't give you the right to not identify yourself on a traffic stop.
What are you talking about?
You are detained on a traffic stop.
You was at the stop sign. I'm slowing down because I thought you was going through. So I don't know why you're saying I'm speeding.
You got to love this. And again, part of me is this guy, right? Part of me wants to always argue my way out of everything. I'm like, no, you give me your license. You give me your license. I'm not giving you nothing, right? It's just kind of how I am. I'm a little bit insubordinate that way. But you got to love the exchange, right? At the end, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? With my daughter, you're going to arrest me with my daughter? Listen, I traveled with my daughters forever. I've never used that line, but I'm not going to say that I'm above reproach here. I'm definitely not. I try to be respectful of the cops. I've got family in law enforcement. You guys know I was a volunteer cop for a couple of years, and went to an abbreviated police academy, and I learned a lot. So I try to play the game, and the cop was being very respectful, so I don't see any issue there. But, man, do you know who I am, right? And, no, I was not speeding. Well, give me your license. I'm not giving you nothing. You got to, if I were a cop, I'd laugh. I'd say, all right, stand by, sir. Just stand by. And, you're going to have to surround this guy with another 14 police cars and, the cops with the gold badges and the white shirts, and they're going to have to come and use their 25 and 30 years of experience and their tact and their position to say, hey, councilman, how are you? Let's try and get a positive outcome on this. It looks like, you were going a little fast here. We clocked you at going 20 miles faster than you should be. Maybe we'll call it down the middle. We're going to give you a ticket for going 10 miles faster. You'll have your day in court. Let's get this over with, your kids in the car. Let's not make it any more difficult than it needs to be. And he'll probably say, yeah, you know what? I don't got a problem with you. It's your officer I got a problem with, because that guy's a jerk and this guy's this, and he's hot under the collar because, there's a sense of entitlement there. He's like, hold on a second. Do you know that I'm a councilman and I'm allowed to drive 45 miles an hour in a 25? I mean, that's just how this works. Come on, man. Listen, I drive pretty slow to begin with. I honestly do. But I have been known to go faster than I should be, right? And I don't mean like 90. I'm talking about like him. If it's a 25, I do 35 a lot. That's 10 miles. I'm guilty of that. Now, am I guilty of doing 68 and a 65? Rarely. I'm probably doing 57. I drive slow. I am Miss Daisy. But when it comes to local drive, because it's hard to drive slower than 40 miles an hour, in my opinion. I just think it is. Anyway. So I want to know what you think about this guy. Let me give you the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. Now, I'm not going to say he's a Democrat, but what I am going to say is he's also facing election fraud charges. How about that, right? That sense of entitlement doesn't stop at the traffic stop. It goes into everything else. I'll tell you more about the election fraud charges. I meant to do this story a week ago. It's been floating around my desk for a few days, but I'm glad we got to it. I'm going to get to your calls as well. We got calls from Chicago, Illinois, WLS, live, Boise, Idaho, Bordentown, Kentucky, La Crosse, Wisconsin, and more coming in. The phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-Valdez. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-Valdez. That's Valdez with an S.
Rich Valdez, who again will do a fine job, and I know you'll enjoy listening to him.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-Valdez. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-Valdez. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, let's go right smack dab in the middle of the country to the Big 89, 890 AM WLS, legendary station in Chicago. Jim, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdez. Welcome.
Hey, Rich. Did that receptionist say you're much more handsome than I would have expected for a radio guy?
Yeah, I get that a lot. I get that. They like my hair. I get lots of compliments on my looks. Thank you, Jim.
Great. At least you have hair. Okay.
I don't.
So, Mike, the reason I'm calling is that I'm deeply concerned that there's a conflict of interest within the people in the Secret Service that are trusted with guarding President Trump. But he's the same person that is going to slit their throat or chop their heads off as soon as he gets in office.
Why is that?
Isn't there a little issue there?
Why is he slitting their throat and chopping their head?
Well, because they failed. You know, the ones, no, I'm saying within the ones that failed, not the Secret Service, all of them, you know, but the ones, the bad actors that are still there, that made the bad judgments, that still are to this day are not stepping up and doing the right thing and disclosing the failure, the true nature of the failure.
Well, I think there's a few things going on here. And I think what you're saying has some merit to it, but here's how I think it plays out. I think that the first person that made the biggest failure was Kimberly Cheadle, the Secret Service director. She clearly was in over her head, and she was asked to resign, and she did. Now, it was very clear that the new guy, Rowe, acting director Rowe, he's a real piece of work, this guy. But he was there, and I think very kind of guarded, kind of on offense, or really defense, I should say, because he felt like, you know, you're attacking my people. And he was trying to protect himself, CYA, right? So he's there doing what bureaucrats do. I'm sure he's going to go, the entire establishment there, you know, whoever Trump can appoint, right? In government, typically, when you come into an office like president or even governor, you have the ability to appoint usually a certain percentage of the people that work in the government as your administration. So it's 30% or whatever that number is. So Trump's going to be able to bring in his people, and he wasn't going to keep the Biden people anyway. He was going to bring in his own people. So I think that's going to happen no matter what. Now, in terms of, I think if you were to ask Trump, what do you think of the Secret Service? I think he'd say, I'm still here. I'm still standing. And yeah, by the grace of God, I am. But these people have kept me safe, you know, most days, including that day where they were able to get him out of there. I think he's grateful for it, is my point. While I think we look at it like a massive failure, I haven't heard him criticize the Secret Service once. I've heard him only thank people. And I think it's because he, you know, when you have a near-death experience like that, you become very thankful. You become very appreciative of the things that you have. As a matter of fact, there's a something called a social media website called the Dilly Meme Team, and they make memes and videos for social media. And they did one today that juxtaposes the clip where Trump is giving the speech and then he gets shot with like images of his family and his childhood. And it basically in the seconds, 20-second clip or whatever it is, it literally visualizes his life flashing in front of him. And it's very moving. It's very dramatic. And I think it's great. It's a great depiction of what's going on. It humanizes Trump. And I think that's what people need to see, is a very humanized Trump. So I think he's going to get rid of the people, all of them, and put in the best people possible at the Secret Service and at every level of government. Jim, WLS in Chicago. Big shout out to you guys. Looking forward to more of your calls straight ahead. 833-4-VALDEZ.
Valdez. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-Valdez. That's Valdez with an S.
The assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump was a dark day for our country. I again extend my deepest sympathies to the family of Corey Comparator and sincere wishes for a swift recovery for Mr. Copenhaver and Mr. Dutch. The Secret Service takes full responsibility for the tragic events of July 13th. This was a mission failure. The sole responsibility of our agency is to make sure our protectees are never put in danger. We fell short of that in Butler, and I'm working to make sure that this failure does not happen again. I'm focused on ensuring that the full resources of the Secret Service are utilized to safeguard our protectees, and I've implemented and will continue to implement changes to ensure that that happens. We are and we will continue to cooperate with pending oversight investigations of the July 13th failure being done now by Congress, the Department of Homeland Security's Office of the Inspector General, and the independent review directed by President Biden.
That is Ronald Rowe, acting Secret Service director, at a press conference today, saying this was a mission failure. And he's right. And again, this is the beauty of bureaucracy. This is how it works. You learn how to say what you need to say in front of the right audience. That's all it is. So when he's in front of Congress, he's got to defend himself because they're coming in hot, right? They're coming in hot and they're like, hey, but you didn't, because of you. And he's like, no, hold on, Congressman, blah, 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 right? He takes the defensive there to try and set the record straight and set the tone. But then once he's done that, and then he looks like a bad guy and, done what he's done, because again, he's got a CYA and he's got to stick up for his people, right? He's director of this agency. He's got to make them feel like, look, I went into the lion's den and I defended each and every one of you. Then he's got to deal with the American people. Now he's got to come with a contrite heart, because he realizes I can't go out here and tell people Donald Trump got shot because he was wearing a red hat and he was doing a rally in Pennsylvania. Had he not done that, he wouldn't. No, he can't do that. Right. So he has to now come and say, look, we take full responsibility for this. The buck stops with us. Our job is to keep this man safe. This is classic lip service, if I've ever seen it, right? This is exactly what people in Washington do. I mean, he sounded insincere, in my best estimation, while he was doing it. But that is how this works. This is how it works. Now you're speaking to the constituents. Now the violins come out and say, listen, we have to keep this man safe. We got one job. One job, folks, keep these people safe. And we failed. We dropped the ball. We're bad. Shame on us. Now he's looking for that sympathy. So he can say, but we're going to do this and we're doubling down. And we're going to make sure every resource, sir, the reason this happened is because you don't have the resources, right? Or you weren't allocating the resources. So it's good to know you're going to try and allocate them now. I think news came out today that there were 22 Secret Service agents in all of what you saw that day. So if you saw 100 cops at that thing, 22 of them were Secret Service. 78 of them were local, other federal, and other agencies, not the Secret Service. So yeah, lots of failures here. This mention in here that he made of Mr. Copenhaver. Mr. Copenhaver was taking video when he got shot. And that video, part of that video was released today or yesterday. And very interesting video. He was there, I believe, behind Trump in that VIP section. And what we saw on that video that Mr. Copenhaver released is someone, it looks like, running on the roof, I guess, toward the gunman. That's not part of any public record I've heard yet of local law enforcement running towards him. Running. And you could see it. There's a little circle. They zoom in. It's very pixelated, but you can see a figure moving, running on that roof. And apparently wearing all dark clothing because the shooter was wearing light clothing, kind of blending into the light color of the roof. So that's interesting, and we haven't heard a ton about that yet, unless, that's misinformation. But I saw the video. I don't know how misinformed I could be. I saw it. Anyway, let's continue. I want to get your thoughts on some of this. Let me see. Where do we go here? Let's go to David in La Crosse, Wisconsin, WIZM. Go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. Thank you. I told your screener I started with 2 statements, but your great audience triggered a couple more.
Oh, that's always how it is.
Question. First of all, I love this show of common sense.
Thank you.
I like to call it when you need more. Sorry, I got chicken scratch for all these notes. Something you do, the more I love the show. Anyway, what I want to know, does Kamala Harris still stand behind Tara Reid like she did in the 2000 debate when she believed that, Joe Biden gave false.
That's a great question, David. And you know what I'm wondering is, I wonder, will Tara Reid come out and speak at the next Trump rally or one before Election Day and ask that same question? Because I can tell you, she's no fan of Biden's. And likely she's not going to be a fan of Kamala's at this point because she's going to look at it like Kamala has aided and abetted Joe Biden. And that's great. And she's out there. She wrote a book and she's been doing interviews. She was actually scheduled to be on this show one day. And then we had to, something happened. She was in Russia or traveling to Moscow and her flight got delayed there or whatever the case was. So that's why we never we couldn't figure out the scheduling because of the time difference. But ultimately, yeah, imagine that. Imagine Tara Reid coming out saying, look, the choice is yours. But when it came to believing in women, this woman didn't have my back. Right? Because she might have had it at one point, but she certainly had Biden's back moving forward. So that's a good question. It's going to be really, really interesting to me to see how it plays out. Thank you for asking it. And thanks for your kind words. Very, very kind of you to say that. And I appreciate you listening and taking notes and participating in the conversation because that's what we do, right? This is America's late night town hall. And I'm grateful to be here and grateful that you're here too, David. So big shout out to David, La Crosse, Wisconsin, WIZM. Thank you, sir. Let's see. We will continue. Let's go to Otis. Otis is calling from Bordentown, Kentucky on WKCT. Go right ahead, Otis.
Oh, good evening, Rich. Good show. Heard you talking about Hollywood. Now, I do have high hopes they could come out with some good entertainment again sometime. But, I'm about 25 years older. I grew up with a different caliber of actors, like James Arness, Charles Bronson.
Oh, yeah. My dad loved Charles Bronson.
Right. This is actually, too, about the caliber actors, I think, now and everything. A buddy of mine, Billy Neese, died in 2013 of Agent Orange. He was in Vietnam in 1969 with the Big Red One.
Who are you talking about?
Four Bronze Stars, Purple Heart.
Who?
One day, him and three of his buddies were about to be overrun by the NVA. They called a helicopter in. Helicopter landed. Fifth Parker jumps off the helicopter in full buckskin, coonskin helps every one of them on the helicopter, and they boogie out there. His muzzle loader and everything's in there, and some of them got autographed. The UFO show. But
who are you talking about, Otis? Who are we talking about here? Hello, Otis. Otis, who?
He played Daniel Boone, Fess Parker.
Who? James Parker. Got it. Thank you.
Parker.
Oh, okay.
He played Davy Crockett, too, on the Walt Disney movie.
Oh, I've seen that. The old one, right?
Right.
Yeah, talking about Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier. Yeah, I grew up watching that. I got older brothers, so I saw a lot of old stuff that other people my age probably didn't see because they may not have had those siblings that I had. But so the guy was a gentleman, and he was the real deal, kind of like a John Wayne type or a Reagan.
Right. Let me ask you something, Rich.
Yes, sir.
Will Kamala Harris do what Mike Pence done?
With?
On the January 6th, 2025, would she do it?
I don't know. I don't know what she does, honestly. I don't think that we get there, right? I don't think that she's going to have that opportunity because she's not going to be well, I guess she will be vice president. That's interesting how I don't think she'll be in a position to do that, though. I think she's going to have to certify the election no matter what because it would look horrible for her otherwise. And there's few people willing to take risks, right? And that's a risk that Trump might take. Very few people are willing to take a risk like that. Kamala Harris is not one of those people. She's way too concerned about how she looks in the history books. Trump is way too concerned about what actually happens in America, and he could care less about how history defines him. I think he thinks as long as I do the right thing, history will define me accurately. But Harris wants to steer clear of any negative criticism, and she would never, I don't believe, would say, in the name of democracy, I can't do this. We're going to reject these votes, send them back to the states, because then she would be hypocritically doing exactly what they accused Mike Pence or Donald Trump of doing. And they wouldn't do that, right? Because they're supposed to be above board and above reproach. So I just don't see it happening. But again, excellent question. Just as good as the Tara Reid question that we just got. Another very good question. What will Kamala do? Maybe that should be our next segment. What will Kamala do? I appreciate it, brother. Otis in Bordentown, Kentucky, WKCT. Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to pause right here, come right back for the speed round. We're going to Arizona, Ohio, Idaho, and more. Don't move a muscle.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
I'm honored, man, to be able to have a voice on your platform. There's probably 140,000 federal inmates that listen to you at night.
America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
That voice that you heard there was the voice of Joe Exotic, a.k.a. Joe Maldonado. He's the star of the Netflix series The Tiger King. And he said there's probably about 140,000 federal inmates that listen to me at night on this program. I'm glad they're listening to all of us because we're having this national conversation. And Joe Exotic, the Tiger King, he's in prison because he conspired. They claim that he conspired to kill Carol Baskin, a rival tiger breeder, and he was on this program. We did an interview with him live from jail, which was a very eye-opening one. I got to know him a little bit better. He's pretty astute politically, more than one would think from knowing him from his television show or his Netflix series. And I love that he's a fan, and he actually tweeted out a nice video about this program recently. But he's scheduled to be with us again on Monday, and he's got a big announcement that he wanted to make in lieu of some news that came out regarding RFK Jr. Bobby Kennedy Jr. has been flirting with the idea, at least the reports I've heard, of getting out of the presidential race. As you know, RFK Jr. is running as an independent. He was running against Biden, and they made it super difficult, so he ran as an independent, and here he is. And there's, again, rumors. I don't know if they're founded or not, if they're accurate or not, but that he may pull out and put his endorsement behind a candidate. Again, the Kennedys, he is a liberal. He is a progressive liberal that's anti-vax for the most part. At least I think he always takes offense if you say that, right? But point is, rumor mill says he may endorse Trump. And that would be interesting to have a Kennedy, a Democrat, endorsing Trump as opposed to endorsing Que Mala Eres. So, again, Joe Exotic scheduled to be with us on Monday. Let's see if that actually happens. It is jail, and it's not easy to get a phone call, and sometimes they kick you off while you're on the phone. So we'll see how that goes down. But I want to get to your calls. Let's go to Pat in Sedona, Arizona, listening online, streaming, richvaldez.com. Go right ahead, Pat.
Hey, Rich, thank you. Hey, you do have the best looking hair on radio. Hey,
Thanks,
I wanted
brother.
to tell you about, you're welcome, man. Yeah, you have more hair than most all of us. You know that. I want to go back to the Olympics and that boxer. I don't want you to misunderstand me. I do applaud being different, and the people deserve a right to compete. But when their right disputes a person's health and ability to, that girl said that she was never hit that hard ever. Now this girl,
right, and she's an Olympic boxer, so I think that says a lot, right? You must have been hit in the head many times to get to the level where you're representing an entire country at the Olympics, and to say that that's the hardest you've ever been hit, I think that's a pretty profound statement.
And, this other boxer has, I don't know if they were talking about the XX, which is women, XY is men, and that this person did fail this test a while ago. So it's basically not her or him, whatever, fault. It was the people in charge of the rules who's failed this woman who had to
I think
give up.
everybody's faulting the International Olympic Committee for allowing this to happen.
Yes. And the other boxers in there, and haven't heard anything about that. And I just think that, give them their own separate Olympics. I mean, everybody has Olympics. Right after the Olympics are done, I don't know if people know this, but we have this Special Olympics and then the Disabled Olympics in the same venue. Of course, it doesn't get any, television time or a lot of press, but I know that because I was a real Olympian follower for a while until it got real political and backed off from it. But I just want you to know that, Rich, I have nothing against this boxer and their
right. And I'm glad you made that distinction. And it was something I said something similar, that while I may on this program share my thoughts about trans and this and that, that's not what I'm doing here. Right. This is clearly about just how this is not working well. Right. If you have someone that's a I believe people that are trans should, if they're going to be competing in sports, then they ought to compete in their own category, just like everybody else, right? And I think weight class was always the thing in boxing, weight and sex. So, or they're 155 pounds, welterweight, light middleweight, whatever it was, or male division, female division, that type of thing. But you have to be able to separate them the right way. Pat in Sedona, Arizona, I got to take a pause here. We're coming back for the speed round. I appreciate you, brother. Godspeed to you. Have a great weekend. Boise, Idaho, Zanesville, Ohio, and more coming up. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. We continue our conversation. Let's go to Zanesville, Ohio, WHIZ, The Wiz. Paul, go right ahead.
Good evening, Rich. I mean this all in fun. Rich, it's the people that's never seen Rich. He could be the cue ball in a game of pool. Okay.
Right. I know. I love that. I think it's so funny. And I don't want to steal your time. I'll tell you another day. But there was a radio host in New York who used to start a lot of smack on the radio, and he would leave the studio and, I did it to you anyway, Paul. Well, at least you got a good joke in. Anyway, we'll pick this up on Monday. Paul, I appreciate you, brother. Zanesville, Ohio, in the building. I owe you. I owe Paul and Boise. We're going to have to start open phones at 11:30 on Monday after the Tiger King joins us, hopefully. And another great week coming up. We have some great guests. Don't go anywhere. God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.